So from here, I think we're ready to start working on the individual parts of the body. And I'm going to start with arms. And I'm starting with a bent arm, actually, just because this is something I see people struggle with a lot. Um, just the shape of the forearm, and it's very simple. It's a tube just with a few bumps on it. There's a bit of a wedge along the top and a little wedge along the bottom on the tube, and the upper arm has a little wedge on the back and a little wedge in the front and a wedge for the deltoid, and that's an arm. It's very, very simplified, but uh, you'll find the more you can get into your simplified form, uh, the more effective you'll be at drawing. If you have trouble coming to a good simple form for your arm, your anatomy will start to look a little bit um, misproportioned and will stick out of your body in ways that maybe aren't necessarily attractive or accurate. Uh, so what I'm doing now is I'm actually on top of my simple form that I've established for the arm. I'm actually drawing in the muscles, and if you look, they're all basically interconnecting football shapes. Some very long, some much fatter and smaller, but they're all interconnecting shapes. And no muscle can just start somewhere and not really end somewhere. And no muscle can ever just turn a corner. Muscles always go from one point to another, from one tendon to another tendon, and the muscle contracts, and that's how it works. Here, what I'm doing is I'm drawing the way that the chest and the shoulder work. All the muscles in the chest and the shoulder come from one point um, on the arm at the bottom of the shoulder, and then they fan out, and the shoulder muscles connect to the top of the shoulder, and the chest muscles fan up from that point as well and connect out into the chest. So here I'm going to draw the arm from the inside. Uh, draw all the little football shapes. This I learned actually from Jim Lee, who did a video years ago with Stan Lee, and Todd McFarlane was in it, and Rob Liefeld was in it. Um, and Jim Lee was talking about using football shapes to roughen his muscles, and it just made a great deal of sense for me, and it really stuck with me. It's something that I still use. I think it's maybe useful to learn a lot of the names of the muscles, but I don't know that it's really helpful to learn how to draw them necessarily. I don't know the names of most of them, and really I needed to learn how to draw the figure effectively for my job, so I wasn't terribly interested in knowing their names. I just needed to know how they looked um, on paper. So here I'm drawing the elbow, and the elbow has basically three bones: an inner, the middle, bigger bone, and then the outer bone. And I like to draw those in as just circles, and then I've got my muscles extending up from those, and they all interconnect. I always draw wherever bones are visible in the muscles at the elbow, at the top of the shoulder, at the wrist. I always draw them as when I'm roughing in my anatomy. I always draw them as circles. So here's the inner arm. And there's a bone right there, which I've just drawn as a circle. And here comes the inside of the arm, a few broad muscles, and then the tendons from the finger extensors coming in from there. And I think probably the best way to learn anatomy what really worked for me, I used George Bridgman's Guide to Life Drawing was my anatomy Bible. And I met an artist named Kyle Hotz, who's a great artist. Years ago in Detroit, I met him at a convention and showed him my work, and he recommended that I use the Bridgman book and draw every picture in that book because he's got so many great examples of anatomy. And if you want to use these examples here, I would recommend that you draw every single arm, leg, and every other part of the body that's in here based on these pictures and try and make it look as accurate as possible. And then try and learn how to do it on your own. Go through and draw every single picture again from memory and do that a couple times, and eventually you'll have a good working memory of where all the muscles are. It takes a certain amount of time, and it's a big commitment to really learn a good anatomy, but it's really worth the investment, just in terms of the confidence that you'll have going in to do your job when you really know where all the anatomy is and where it's all placed. It makes a very big difference. So now we're going to go into legs. Again, like I did with the arms, I'm not going to describe every single muscle. I think my pencil drawing them is probably much more descriptive than I could ever be talking about it. But I really like the idea that you really don't need to see any inner definition or muscles at all for a leg to look powerful, or an arm or whatever to look complete and powerful. And it's a really very important thing to be able to do in order to be able to draw women effectively, because you really can't draw all of the muscles and all of the detail in a woman's body without ending up with something that looks a little harsh. So now with the second leg, what I'm doing is just going in, and again, I think the long football shapes are maybe a little more apparent with the leg because they are a little lengthened and larger. You see that the muscles in the upper leg, there are 3 of them. It's very similar actually to the triceps in the arm, and in a way the leg is actually kind of reversed from the arm. The arm is pointed forward and the legs are pointed backwards, but the actual anatomy is different but very, very similar. So at the back of the upper leg, you would have essentially your biceps, I suppose. There are tendons that run along the back of the knee, and from those come your calf muscles. And there's a long tendon from your calf muscles that goes down into your heel. It's the Achilles tendon. And there's essentially the bicep muscle, and here's your deltoid. And now I know that this is your buttocks, but it's very similar to the deltoid muscle on the arm. Obviously, the placement's a little different, but the effect is very, very similar. Legs are very similar to arms anatomically. It's really interesting just how much the body's an engine, in a way, a machine that is only modified for different purposes, but the essential architecture is actually very similar. So here comes the same structure now from the side. This is the outside of the leg. I've got a little bone there on the knee, which I drew a bit of a circle for. And now I'm drawing the extensors for the toes. And when you look at the leg, you can see I've drawn a curve. And the leg really does have a curvature to it. The upper leg is actually forward of the lower leg. And I've drawn a little ball for the pelvic bone. So now I'm going to draw the inside of the leg, certainly has some similarities to the inside of the arm. But you can see again how the upper leg extends outward and the lower leg kind of curves backward. They kind of reverse each other. And I think it's important actually for me to point out that the two muscles just above the knee on the front of the leg, the muscle on the inside of the knee is much lower than the muscle on the back of the knee, on the outside of the knee. They don't sit at the same level, and it's something that I see very commonly, them drawn to sit at the exact same level, and it always looks a little unnatural. There's an angle there. It's pretty pronounced, actually. And here I'm just going to give you a quick diagram to show you what I mean, to show you the angle that I'm talking about and the two muscles that I'm talking about. There's the knee. Just from a couple different angles. And the outside muscle has a bit of a tendon, a hook to it, and a bit of a tendon that goes down along to the bone. So now I'm going to go in and start working on some of the anatomy for the chest down to the pelvis. So basically the chest, the stomach, and the back. And I'm just going to rough in the same basic form that we've been working on this whole time. And you can see that I just drew a line across for my chest. That's where the chest muscles are going to start. And I'm defining the rib cage a little bit. And then the two lines that I just drew down from the rib cage in the center will just be the sides of my stomach. So I'm going to get the arms in just enough that I can get the shoulders in, because really the shoulders, the deltoids, are part of the chest muscle. They're separate muscles, I suppose, but they work together. So to make the chest really work, you need to have the shoulders in. So there's my chest, and now I'm drawing in my rib cage, my lats along the sides, and then the ribs. And you can see they interconnect. And for the muscles on the stomach, I don't like to just do a simple flat shape. Again, and I do this all the time with my anatomy, I like to give the line a bit of an opposing curve. It just makes it much more dynamic. And the stomach muscles connect all the way into the muscles along the ribs and then into the back. So they can't just be drawn as a thing unto themselves. Along the side of the stomach, there I think it's called the obliques, the muscles that run along the sides of the body and connect in with the stomach muscles. Basically, in your body, every muscle interconnects with other muscles to make your body move. So it's a really good thing to learn how to make muscles stitch together. A lot of times when you see somebody's artwork and you see muscles defined, a muscle will start and then just not end, or it'll start and then another muscle will start and kind of run into where the first one was without connecting up. Things just start to really flatten out. Muscles all need to connect with each other, kind of interlace. So from behind, I've got the buttocks, the butt muscle, and that interconnects down into the leg muscles, and The back starts with a V shape along the top, and in the center, and then you have the shoulder blades. Um, and they can be very difficult to draw because the shoulders, when the arms are down and rested, have one look, and a completely different look when the arms are up and extended. And it's a difficult thing to be able to learn how to do that from memory. And it's something that most artists, I would say me included, don't really have 100%. I think the back is a very difficult thing to learn to be effective at. It has so much movement compared to other muscles in the body. But there's a back with all the muscle groups basically uh, drawn in and connected. And now I'm just going to work on the same thing from the side. Um, and really, all these muscles have been drawn basically at this point. This is just a bit of a different perspective on them. So here we see the chest from the side, and the connection from the arm. Um, the lats coming around into the back. And I'm gonna draw my rib muscles here. When I actually draw or define the muscles in my anatomy, I don't really draw the shapes quite as cleanly as what I'm drawing there. I like to break them up and make them a little bit lumpy and organic. It just looks a little more interesting to me. I don't know that it's necessarily the most anatomically accurate way to do it, but I'm interested in anatomical accuracy, but I'm actually much more interested in making something look visually interesting. And I keep saying visually interesting. What I really mean when I say that is cool. I just want it to look cool. So I'm going to go ahead and start drawing the shoulders and the neck. And if I draw a point from the ear down to the clavicle, the shoulder, I think it's the clavicle. From both ears, it connects down in a V pattern, and there's the voice box or the Adam's apple that I've represented with a ball, and along the top of the shoulders, the muscles connect up into the neck, just behind those long, thin muscles that connect from behind the ear, and then there are the muscles that connect the back of the head into the back, so they all interlace together. I think I'm going to touch on it a little later on, but I want to mention now that it's on my mind that when you lift your arm doesn't lift out from the side of your body. Your whole shoulder raises when you lift your arm, so it raises actually all the way from your neck, the center, that bone lifts, your shoulder blade in the back lifts, everything lifts, your shoulder lifts, and it distorts the shape of your back and your chest and everything around it. So here's the neck from behind. The neck, depending on the way that you angle your head, if you turn your head, muscles always connect to the same points. So as long as you make sure that long muscle that I've just connected to the ear and down to the clavicle, as long as that connects from the ear to the clavicle, you're fine. And I think this is a good angle to really show the way that the muscles connect in the neck. I'm gonna go ahead and draw in the bone along the front of the top of the chest there, and draw in my deltoid and then my chest from it, because it does ride along the top, and the deltoid actually connects to it, which you can see, and it connects all the way from the back to the front of the torso. And that's a bit of a simplified view. I always like to break up my shapes with a little bit more drama, a little bit more dynamic to the line. But in order to get the muscles defined cleanly and clearly, I'm simplifying just a little bit. So here I'm going to raise the arm up and show the difference. You can see that the arm raises all the way up, and it's actually the hole that I have in the side of my vest kind of chest there. The simple structure, the arm actually doesn't line up with that hole anymore. It rises up, and it stretches the whole chest up with it, and the whole back up with it too. And in this view, actually, you can really see that the lat muscle along the back, that large muscle I'm drawing right there, connects up into the underneath the arm, and not behind it. And I think this drawing will illustrate that point just a little bit more. You can see the deltoid along the top of the tube, which is my arm. There's the muscles in the arm extending outward, and I've got the lat actually connecting up into it underneath the deltoid. And now I've got my chest, my ribs. Here they come. And that is the way that the arm, I guess the armpit works. It's an area that generally gets shadowed out, but it's good to know how it's working. So here I'm showing how I do my rib cage and the type of line that I use, and I'm using a line with a hook in it in the middle. You can see for the stomach, and it looks much more correct than just a swooping curve. Just a simple curve would look. I'm going to go ahead and connect the stomach up into the sides of the body, into the obliques. And that oblique has quite the curve to it. In a real body, if you look at someone that's got a good six-pack, their obliques have a real hard line just above the leg. I'm drawing a center line down now through the body, and that represents this here that I'm drawing in profile. But that center line is very important because all the muscles, as you can see, mirror on either side of it. And the chest protrudes outward And the stomach actually is a concave shape. It's not just a flat shape down from the chest. It's concave. So with this here, what I'm trying to get across, and what I want to show is the difference between a muscle that is um, tensed and bunched, as compared to a muscle, the same muscle that's extended and lengthened and released. So you can see the bicep on the arm is really balled up and short. And on the next one, the arm's going to be lengthened out and relaxed, and as a result, the bicep's going to be much longer and leaner looking, and um, the upper arm will, ends up looking a lot less um, big, except that I'm actually really not relaxing the arm quite so much. I'm tensing it the other way. So now the delta, or the triceps, which are the three muscles. It's called triceps because there are three of them along the back of the arm. Is very tensed and bunched. If you can see, it's um, they're shortened and balled up, and the bicep is just lengthened and relaxed. And you can see the difference in the tricep from the second drawing to the first one. Once I move my hand a little bit, there, the bicep or the tricep in the first drawing is much longer and softer. And that's something. I mean, the legs do that as well, and the chest will do that, and a lot of different muscles do that. But it's very important to learn. And here, I already covered this a little bit, but I just want to go in, and I see people have a lot of trouble with the upper forearm and just the forearm in general. And so from the side, I just really wanted to once again show how simple those shapes are and how they work.